When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is a disaster. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. The first step is to establish that something is possible. Then probability will occur. I could either watch it happen or be a part of it. Patience is a virtue, and I'm learning patience. It's a tough lesson. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. There's a fundamental difference, if you look into the future, between a humanity that is a spacefaring civilization, that's out there exploring the stars, on multiple planets, and I think that's really exciting, compared with one where we are forever confined to Earth until some eventual extinction event. Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100-hour weeks every week. This improves the odds of success. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. I would just question things. It would infuriate my parents. That I wouldn't just believe them when they said something, 'cause I'd ask them why. And then I'd consider whether that response made sense given everything else I knew. You shouldn't do things differently just because they're different. They need to be better. If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. If you're co-founder or CEO, you have to do all kinds of tasks you might not want to do. If you don't do your chores, the company won't succeed. No task is too menial. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. I don't create companies for the sake of creating companies, but to get things done. It is a mistake to hire huge numbers of people to get a complicated job done. Numbers will never compensate for talent in getting the right answer. Two people who don't know something or know better than one will tend to slow down progress and will make the task incredibly expensive. Talent is extremely important. It's like a sports team. The team that has the best individual player will often win. But then there's a multiplier from how those players work together and the strategy they employ. Starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation, drive, and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell. I don't spend my time pontificating about high-concept things. I spend my time solving engineering and manufacturing problems. If something is important enough, even if the odds are against you, you should still do it. Really pay attention to negative feedback and solicit it, particularly from friends. Hardly anyone does that, and it's incredibly helpful. I always have optimism, but I'm realistic. It was not with the expectation of great success that I started Tesla or SpaceX. It's just that I thought they were important enough to do anyway. I always invest my own money in the companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I don't think that's right. I'm not going to ask other people to invest in something if I'm not prepared to do so myself. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. I think it's important to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. My biggest mistake is probably weighing too much on someone's talent and not someone's personality. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. You have to be pretty driven to make it happen. Otherwise, you will just make yourself miserable. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office, and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. I think life on Earth must be about more than just solving problems. It's got to be something inspiring, even if it is vicarious. If humanity doesn't land on Mars in my lifetime, I would be very disappointed. We're running the most dangerous experiment in history right now, which is to see how much carbon dioxide the atmosphere can handle before there is an environmental catastrophe. I would like to die on Mars, just not on impact. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is a disaster. There's a tremendous bias against taking risks. Everyone is trying to optimize their ass covering. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future and wondrous new technology where you see it, and you're like, wow, how did that even happen? How is that possible?